Special guests on 120 Minutes tonight, two members of Sonic Youth, guitarist Thurston Moore and drummer Shelley. How many times have people asked you whether you've sold out in the past few months, now that you have a major label deal?
You're the first.
I don't believe that.
No, we've been asked quite a bit, but not face to face. And, you know, so we sold out, big deal. I mean, what's it to you? I mean, it's like we've been on an independent label for 10 years. And, yeah.
Is that something that worries you? I mean, do you feel like you have some kind of independent standard to uphold?
No. When we first started, it wasn't so much, I mean, we had nowhere to go anyway. The idea of being on a major label was so far-fetched to begin with. And, you know, I mean, something that we never had an ambition to do was to be on a major label or to have like corporate backing of any sort. It's just something that never really entered our minds. And when we first started, the only alternative was to put out records yourself, which is what we did, and we totally controlled everything ourselves. And at the time we started, a whole uprising of young bands in America started up, like Minor Threat on the East Coast, and you had Black Flag on the West Coast, and they all created their own labels, such as SST and Discord, and Jello Biafra had Alternative Tentacles, and
Touch and Go.
In the Midwest was Touch and Go, and they created an entirely, alternative network to
play and make records.
That was all a new thing, and it was very exciting, and it worked. And after 10 years, it's become established. It has become a success.
It's just as much big business as the major corporations, right. Major labels. Mm-hmm. There's the New Music Seminar, which is basically a week of business meetings, and it's just like the big boys.
Right now, you're seeing a lot of major labels. I mean, they see the whole independent scene after the last 10 years as being a successful thing, an entity unto itself, and its own establishment, and they're buying it up, and which is, what they want to do. I mean, that's pretty much what goes on. And
well, your first major label video is Cool Thing. What's the inspiration for this song?
Kim wrote the words to this song. I think it's a pretty personal song. I mean, I think she sort of looks at it from the viewpoint of women as true anarchists in society, and I think as an American she really related it to sort of like the young black male as far as like an oppressive part of society. And the turning point is when she went and had an interview with LL Cool J last year for a publication, and she realized here was somebody she was totally attracted to as an entertainer, and the conversation could only be pretty much just a touch-and-go conversation because their cultures were so divided.
Here's the video for Cool Thing. This is Sonic Youth. Sonic Youth with Cool Thing. Now, the song was originally written about LL Cool J. But is Chuck D a Public Enemy in there, right?
Yeah, LL Cool J was just sort of a catalyst for the song. Chuck D was in the studio when we were recording it. Public Enemy was recording Fear of a Black Planet at the same time that we were recording Goo. And when Kim was laying down her vocal track for that song, she asked Chuck if he'd want to do a piece of it. And he heard the song and he complied.
Sonic Youth have a new album called Goo. We're going to talk more about that in the second 60 of 120 Minutes. Dave Kendall with you for the second 60 of 120 Minutes. Sonic Youth are here. I'll be talking more with them in just a bit. Also coming up, the 120 X-Ray on Dred Zeppelin and videos from The Hypnotics, Depeche Mode, 24/7 Spies, The Breeders, The Sneetches, Jellyfish, and lots more. Let's kick off with a world premiere of a video, Concrete Blonde, made for the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack. But what am I telling you for? Everybody knows. Welcome back to 120 Minutes on MTV. Our special guests tonight, guitarist Thurston Moore and drummer Shelley of Sonic Youth. Your new album is called Goo. Why?
Goo is the name of a girl who was featured in this film called Sir Drone that was directed by Raymond Pettibone, who did the cover art for our album. And she, the film is about punk rock, the beginnings of punk rock as taking place in Hollywood, and Goo is the girl in the film, and she plays the drums, and that's her real name. And I think Goo is pretty much just this girl who sort of hangs around at punk rock clubs, wants to check out the scene. So it's kind of like an innocent person.
Now, Goo as an album has had a lot of critical acclaim, including very kind words from Mr. Iggy Pop, who was here about a month ago. Do you admire Iggy's work?
Yeah, oh yeah. Iggy's is a big influence and big inspiration to us. We used to all, we all grew up with the Stooges. First Stooges album, second Funhouse and Raw Power were like, manifestos to us in the 70s. And the records he did with David Bowie were amazing. And he's still at it. I mean, he's still great. We first met Iggy a couple years ago in England when we did a show, and he was rehearsing in the same rehearsal space as us down the hall, and we heard him. And we were rehearsing I Want to Be Your Dog, and we heard somebody else rehearsing it. And we went to peek in to see, who the hell was ripping us off.
And it was the Eggman.
And it was him. And then we were like totally freaked out, and he came and saw us, and he jumped on stage when we started doing that song, and did just ripping rendition of I Want to Be Your Dog with Kim.
Do you got any videotape of that?
Oh,
yeah.
Great, really? Maybe we can get hold of it.
Yeah, maybe we can show it, next to Bon Jovi's Young Guns 2 video. That'd be good.
It'll be a wonderful segue.
Yeah.
Thurston and Steve, thanks very much. Thurston, you got to wash your hands before these interviews, man.
Never.
Steve, thanks very much. Good luck on the rest of your tour, Sonic Youth. And right now, here's a video from Sonic Youth's last album, Daydream Nation. This is Teenage Riot.